Hello, I heard you wanted to learn about immersion and flow. You came to the right place. I'm going to show you all about it with a new game that just came out called Marvel Rivals. What is Marvel Rivals? Glad you asked. Marvel Rivals is a game that was just released recently on December 6th, 2024. Marvel Rivals is a team-based game where each team has 6 members. Players are to choose from 3 roles: Vanguard, Strategist, and Duelist. The game consists of different game modes: Domination, Convoy, Convergence, and Conquest. Alright, enough about the game. Immersion and flow is what we're here to talk about. So what is immersion? Immersion can be categorized into 4 groups: systems immersion, spatial immersion, empathic and social immersion, and sequential immersion. Systems immersion is when the player is highly engaged in the decision-making, activities, and rules of the game, using your character's abilities with purpose. An example in Marvel Rivals would be Star-Lord reloading using the dodge ability to finish off your opponents. Spatial immersion is when the player feels a sense of presence in the location they're playing in. They have the ability to influence the game's systems to get the result they desire. An example of this in Marvel Rivals would be the destroyable objects in the game. The map has many buildings that can be broken down that gives the game a better immersive feel. Empathic and social immersion is when the player has an emotional connection with the characters and players are able to play and communicate with friends and teammates. There are many aspects in Marvel Rivals that represent empathic and social immersion. Marvel is such a big franchise that people are already drawn towards the characters because of their intensive backstory. There are also ways to play with friends and communicate between teammates and as well as enemies. Sequential immersion is when the players desire to see the next step in the sequence. Players want to keep playing, anticipating each step of the game. An example in Marvel Rivals would be having good game sense. This means knowing when to push into a fight, knowing when to back away, and having knowledge of which ultimates the enemies currently have. According to Matahagis Burridge, Marvel Rivals is immersive. There's systems immersion with the gameplay mechanics, spatial immersion with the destroyable environment, empathic and social immersion by being able to talk to friends, and sequential immersion by anticipating the next moves from their opponent. Great job, Marvel Rivals. Our next topic is going to be talking about flow. What is flow? Well, it's a lot. Flow is almost a state of mind where gamers and athletes are able to fully indulge in the game they're playing. Flow was discovered by, and pardon me if I butcher this, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi in 1970. He says that there's a list of elements that influence players towards a flow state. One of the elements being rewards. Players should be rewarded for their good behavior. This gives players more incentive to keep playing and stay inside of the game. In Marvel Rivals, there are lots of ways the player gets rewarded. The player earns XP after every game, leveling up their Battle Pass rewards, giving them cooler skins and cosmetics. There's also specific challenges for every character in the game that rewards the players with special loot when completed. And those are just a few ways the game rewards you. Another element of flow is that the game has to have clear goals. This game is an objective-based game, meaning the only way for a team to win is by completing the objective. In this clip, I'm playing on a convoy map, and as you can see in the top left of my screen, the game will tell the player what their objective is. Are the maps clear enough? I think so. Even if you didn't see the text in the top left, the objective is usually highlighted through the map, and there will be banners showing the player what they should be doing. And you can also follow your teammates. Sometimes that helps. Sometimes they don't know what they're doing. The other elements are a loss of consciousness. This is when the player doesn't have to concentrate to achieve an action. This gives the player the ability to focus their attention on other important matters of the game. Another one is lost sense of time, and it's pretty simple. Just the player loses a sense of time when they're playing the game. Another one is direct and immediate feedback. The player is guided by feedback so they know how to succeed. And in Marvel Rivals, there are sound cues for when, for example, like when you hit an enemy or when you get hit, notifying the player that either they're doing something right or they're doing something wrong. Another one is the balance between player skills and challenge. The challenges shouldn't be too easy and the challenges shouldn't be too hard. In this game, the players are playing against real people, so there's a lot of variety that happens throughout the game. And especially if you're playing in the ranked mode, then everybody in the game has a specific rank, and you will only play against players with relatively the same rank. So then the game is more fair. And the last element is that the player should be able to control or think that they control the situation of the game. And they should feel in control of the game and fully believe that they're able to complete whatever objective the game has to throw at them. And in a game like Marvel Rivals, I feel like hope is always the right answer, you know? Sometimes when it feels like you're losing and you're just getting steamrolled, there's always that one push that brings it together and you're able to win the game. It's happened before, I've seen it. Now we know what puts players in the flow state. Let's learn about the two types of flow states, the microflow and the macroflow. The microflow lasts for a short period of time, but repeats, like a gameplay loop. Csikszentmihalyi explains the ways to build microflow in games. You need gameplay rhythm, the virtuous circle effect, and positive feedbacks and rewards. The gameplay rhythm can be described as actions that are made throughout the game. These are actions that are pressed in a sequence with each other, creating a rhythmic feel. An example in Marvel Rivals would be the combos that each character has with their own abilities. The virtuous circle effect refers to a mechanic that encourages the player a series of success. This is when the game makes it a little easier for the player, keeping them in the flow state. This is achieved in Marvel Rivals by killing an enemy. Once an enemy dies, the enemy team is at a disadvantage, giving the player and their team a better chance at attacking and winning the objective. Positive feedbacks and rewards I briefly mentioned earlier. There is XP that goes towards your battle pass as well as exclusive character cosmetics. There are also ranked points that players will either gain or lose depending if they win or not when playing the competitive game mode. Alright, the macro flow is pretty simple. It's just the progression of challenge that matches the player's skills. Sometimes this is referred to as a difficulty curve. And if the game is too easy, then players will enter a state of boredom. But if the game is too hard, then the players will enter the anxiety state. Finding this balance is always pretty hard when creating video games, but Marvel Rivals was able to do it seamlessly. This is represented by their ranked system in the game, making sure that the challenge is just right for the amount of skill that all the players have. I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you learned something about immersion and flow. Something to take away is that immersion and flow isn't just in Marvel Rivals, but it's actually in all games. You can use the knowledge you have gained and make the connections with the games that you love. Or you can use the new knowledge to create some new immersive video games that will put players in a flow state effortlessly.